Hey, this is Angela with this week's Living the Shift. We have talked about all of these different sort of topics that touch on the same thing, same sort of common theme, but today we're actually going to focus on that, and that is partially on how we externalize. We've talked about the externalization of the divine and how important it is to remember that the divine is within us, to take that back, to take our power back, and remember all that. Well, this is a different level of this. This has to do with how we perceive ourselves and perceive the world around us, and perceive the need to have others here in our lives to complete us. This is one of the top topics that people want to come and talk to someone who does, healing or spiritual or intuitive or psychic work. When am I going to meet my soulmate? When am I going to meet, have the perfect match? And, why haven't I met them yet? And what happens is people tend to feel like they need to have that relationship to complete themselves. They feel like they're missing something within themselves, and so that finding this other magical person will magically complete it. So the irony that we set up for ourselves has to do with that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We're not going to find the person who brings us the highest vibration kind of compatibility, the highest vibration kind of relationship, until we have actually completed all that within ourselves and actually gotten to the point of saying, I am complete within myself. I recognize the divine within me, and I recognize that I am perfect at all levels, including those things that I consider my shadow side, the darker sides of me. I embrace and love the whole me as part of the light, as part of the divine. And when you can raise your vibration and truly be there without judgment and with complete acceptance and complete love, and just emanate love to everyone else, guess what? Then you will meet those who are of the highest vibration and compatibility with you, and you won't need them. So that's sort of the irony of the whole thing. Our lesson is to take back that empowerment, take back that feeling, that completion within us, and make sure that, look within and say, okay, what do I need to do to complete myself without anybody else, without anyone else needing anybody else to complete me. Some people feel like they need a mate. Some people feel like they need a child to complete them. The completion is within ourselves. The energy of the female, the feminine, the masculine, and the creation, which is the child. All three of those energies are within us. When we've externalized, it's another thing that we've externalized throughout the ages. And it's part of the whole path of the ego and what we wanted to learn and everything else. So there are a lot of levels to that too. There are a lot of levels to the self-love, and we have had so much practice and so much longevity with the ego, and the ego telling us we're not good enough, we're not this, we're not that. And it goes back to that whole lesson in duality that I've talked about time and time again, which is the basic premise of that is me and not me, right? The idea, the illusion that there is any such thing as a not me, that there's any such thing as a not divine. And so then there comes these comparisons, right? I'm not good enough, I'm bad, I'm evil, I'm not a good person, I'm not strong enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not handsome enough, all that kind of stuff. That's all this whole duality thing that we're resolving. And so then when we start looking within ourselves and saying, okay, I am fully complete within myself. I am the masculine, I am the feminine, and I am the child. I have it all within me. And when we fully get to that realization and we fully get to that belief in our hearts and the deepest part of our souls, that is when this happens. That is when we will finally, reunite with our twins, if we have them, if we have twin flames or twin souls. So when we have completed all these lessons on our own, that we've done throughout this existence, and if we're both here on this planet, then we can say, okay, I have completed this. I am fully in love and happy with myself. I'm fully in acceptance and completion of my full self as a whole, as the divine. And when both of you are at that point, that is when it's time for you to get together and, I guess, to do whatever your higher divine purpose is. Same thing though with any kind of high level soulmate kind of connections. We can absolutely attract a soulmate to us, because we have many soulmates. We have like a big huge soul family that we travel through lifetimes with and stuff. But we can attract a soulmate to us that will, if we say, oh, I'm so in need of having somebody, I'm so in need of having a soulmate, and guess what? Since you're putting out that feeling of want to the universe, since you're putting out that feeling of need, then you will actually bring exactly what you need. You will bring a mirror to you, so that you can start looking at yourself. And see, a lot of times when we're so desperate to find somebody else, it's because we are so desperate to not look in the mirrors at ourselves. And what will happen is then you attract somebody to you that will create a mirror in one way or another to yourself. And it can be very painful. It can be very challenging relationships, but they would be the catalyst that you need to look in the mirror to start remembering that you love yourself. And they might not be your ultimate your ultimate pairing, but they will help you on that road. So that's why I always tell people, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get exactly what you want. So the key then again is to turn the mirror back on ourselves. At the end of the day, so much of this comes down to turning the mirror back in on ourselves and looking in the mirror and saying, I love you. I love me. I love me in my entirety as I am right now. I love all my quirks. I love all the things about me. I love the dark side. I accept it. I accept it and embrace it. And it's all a part of my whole and the beauty of its complexity. When we can truly do that and be in that place all the time and in full acceptance, no matter what it is, I have these discussions all the time. We've talked, and this is a whole different topic for another day, and I know I've had this on other webcasts, but when we talk about like multiple lives, right? The way I look at it is, well, as a divine soul, like we've had so many different levels of separation and splitting ourselves into so many different parts. It's just amazing. The more I get at my grasp of understanding around it, the more it's just mind-blowing to think, wow, we really did this separation thing, this idea of separation to an nth degree. Of course we did, because we're divine and we're perfect and we're limitless, so we can do whatever we want to as many levels as we want. So when I look at that, I think, wow, we're just trying to come together and bring this memory of completion within ourselves. That will take us through so many levels so instantaneously, because we have gotten into such this habit of of looking outside of us for the completion. And so then what happens when we do that? When we really focus on our inside, when we focus on what's inside of us, and we say, okay, and when we look at all of these lifetimes that we've had, and depending on who you ask, it can be any number of lifetimes. It could be thousands of lifetimes that we've been here incarnate on earth, depending on what our lessons, our sets of lessons have wanted to be, hundreds or thousands or whatever. So think about that. And people always come to me and they say, well, I think I was a famous person, whatever. It's like, of course you were. Everybody was a highly visible person in some way, shape, or form at some point in this existence. And they've also been at this exalted level of this beautiful, beautiful emanation of light, but we've also all done this really dark, nasty, cruel stuff too. We've all done it. We've all wanted to do the full gamut of it. That was part of the experience. So, everybody's always quick to look at this whole exalted part, but they really don't like looking at that dirty, nasty, cruel, dark part. But that's part of this whole coming into completion. When we say, okay, say we'd had 1,000 lives, right? Let me look at the whole thing. Let me look at every single part of this and say, okay, that's the lesson I learned here. These are the lessons I learned here. Oh my God, what wonderful lessons. And yes, they were harsh and they were cruel and nasty, but you know what? I learned them. And look at what we did, and look at how far I came, and look at this one where I came to this, and look at all these lessons in between. And how beautiful and perfect is all of that. And it's all synchronicity because of all the other souls in my soul family who wanted to learn lessons that all played off of each other. And you start to really truly appreciate that and appreciate that, this is but a blip of illusion to us. This is just what we create as part of this, experience. And we can look at all of this and with fluidity and say, okay, I accept that dark part to me. So that's what we call shadow work. I look at this dark part to me, what you would consider a dark part. I look at this lifetime. I look at this part of me, even in this lifetime, where I did something that I might not have been very proud of at the time. I feel like, this guilt or this need for punishment. And when we can clear that and accept the lesson, resolve it, dissolve and release it, and then clear it out and say, okay, and I love myself anyway. And I love myself because of this tremendous scope of lessons and experiences that we have had as part of the whole, and to add my particular color to it. When we can actually love that without judgment, without criticism, and do that when we can do that with ourselves, we actually can do that with others. And you find that the less you judge yourself, the less you judge others around you. And then guess what? Then we all start coming back together in a higher vibration. And then we start attracting those who would match our higher vibration with us. So there's a lot of levels. Like I said, there's a lot of levels to think about with this. But the key is for all of us to stop wishing for something outside of us. Stop wishing for a person that's going to complete us. Stop wishing for somebody who's going to sweep us off our feet and, take care of us and do everything we need to do for us. And when we have all of that within us, and when we come into that place of, I am perfectly 100% happy with who I am, where I am, what I am doing, in every way, shape, or form. I love myself. When you can be that way and you say, I don't care about if anybody else comes in, that's when you will make the best relationships and the best connections. So I want you to think about that, because at the end of the day, like I said, no matter what we do, it will come back to us somehow, in some way, shape, or form. It will create a mirror for us in some way, so that we are forced to look within, because at the end of the day, that's really what counts, because the divine is in here. So on that, I'm going to let you go. This is Angela with Living the Shift. I'll see you next week.